You know, the United States has really gotten concerned about the flood of immigrants from Central America in the last few years, and particularly children, women and children, but children in particular. And there's always the question, why are people leaving their homes? And so, you know, when you do immigration studies, there are three things that you want to look at. First of all, push factors, pull factors, and thirdly, your path, okay? So those are the three things. Now, when people talk about immigration in the United States, mostly they talk about pull. They look at the United States and our economy and the development and the good American life and all that kind of stuff that we dream is going to bring people here. Well, what we often don't see is the push factors, and we often don't see our role in the push factors. Okay? El Salvador right now is just in a horrible wave of violence that's caused in many ways by a breakdown of social order, social systems. That has to do a lot with the U.S. pushing Salva Maratrucha, the gangs, on El Salvador. Honduras is collapsing because of neoliberalism, the trade network, the Central America Free Trade Zone. And what that has meant is that industry after industry has collapsed because it couldn't compete with cheap U.S. imports. Secondly, farming has also collapsed. Honduras used to be the center, one of the centers of the maquiladora industry. And that's collapsed because of competition. And so it's made Honduras also a very, very violent place. What I'm saying is, to put it very simply, that each of these three societies, which are the major senders, have been destabilized. And they've been destabilized by U.S. interests, U.S. economic involvement, U.S. political involvement. And as a result of that destabilization, many people, if not the vast majority, are fleeing. They're fleeing to get away. Now, yes, there are people who want to come for adventure, you know, algunos jóvenes who just want to leave because they want to go experience something new or try it out, but those are very few from what the data are showing. Mexico has become a major enforcer of U.S. immigration policy by apprehending people within Mexico and then sending them back to Central America. So that over the last year or so, we've seen a major decline in people coming to actually making it to the United States. But we're still seeing, I think the numbers I saw for last year were like maybe 80,000. I don't remember exactly, but it's something like that. We see about that much or more being stopped in Mexico, just to give you numbers. So the appearance here in the United States is the crisis is over. That we met it that year and the U.S. did things and convinced people to stay home because the U.S. wasn't a welcoming society. They couldn't just come here and get away with it. And so we said the word out, so no, people are staying home. Wrong, they're not staying home. In that is the heartlessness of the policies of the West. The U.S. is pretending that we don't suffer that. By being able to work with Mexico and take advantage of that neck of land that connects us to the rest of America and get Mexico to really work hard to enforce U.S. policy, we're able to limit the number of people who appear in the United States and thereby limit the press. The second thing the United States has done is cut off press access, easy access to the centers where they keep the detained children. And so information has actually gone zero. It's not there. You have very little that filters out anymore, whereas initially there was a lot of information. So that's another way the U.S. has made it look like there's not an immigration crisis. But there most definitely is. People are fleeing Central America. And as a matter of fact, from what I've read in the press reporting, many of the people we've deported have actually been murdered or killed when they've returned home. So they're not fleeing economics, just ordinary poverty. They're fleeing the destruction of their way of life and the violence that comes as a consequence of social breakdown. And the way that violence fits into the possibility of a drug war and criminal activity, whose endpoint is also the United States. And so we are thoroughly involved with this, but we've created a reality whereby we don't have to see it and we can pretend like, A, it's not ours, it's somebody else's problem, and B, that we don't have a refugee crisis, they're not refugees, and C, that they're not even coming anymore, all of which is simply not true.